How's that?
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay, all right. First of all, I'd like to have a few announcements before we begin. If those of you who are new to our program,
You gotta
I'm
put it-
Patty Moran, trustee with the Historical Society and program chairman. A special thanks to Ann and Jeff Younger for letting us use their beautiful facility. I'd like to thank our board and trustees for their time in making this program happen. Finally, I'd like to let you know that we have bookmarkers, and they will be up at the stand, available when you leave, if you want to pick them up, and it lists our date, topic, and location of our remaining programs for the year. There's a program in May, September, and October. And you can also find the events listed on the Avon Preservation and Historical website, as well as in the Penny Saver under Community Events for Avon, and posters are placed throughout the local businesses. So at this time, I'd like to do an introduction to the Kyle Farm. Avon is very fortunate and proud to have the Kyle Farm a part of this community. Being a third-generation family raising sheep, Matt Kyle and his cousin Nathan Hatch have grown their sheep farm to be the largest east of the Mississippi. That's quite an achievement. This year, the Livingston County Chamber of Commerce and Farm Bureau has awarded the Kyle Farm the 2024 Farm of the Year. At this time, I would like to introduce and welcome Matt Kyle to share further information on their sheep farming business. Matt?
Can you hear me? No? Cannot hear. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
This is gonna be. It's gonna be a bit much. Anyways, my name's Matt Kyle, Kyle Farms, Avon, New York, third generation sheep farm. Just gonna give you a fair warning, I'm a sheep farmer, not a presenter. Generation one, Selden, Maryland Chase. Our grandparents. Married in East Avon in 1950, had 5 children, Jeannie, Barb, Marcy, Bill, and Cindy. Our grandparents were owners of Chase's Greenhouses and Chase Farms, located in Rush, New York. Chase's Greenhouses was founded by Selden's parents, Howard and Cornelia, in 1980. For a small hobby and for their children, they had 60 head of Suffolk ewes. During the spring, they focused on the bedding plants and growing hay and straw during the summer to sell during the winter. All their children were involved in agriculture, including 4-H. For many years, all their children worked at the greenhouses. For many years, all their grown children worked at the greenhouses. Jeannie, Barb, Cindy worked in the flower shop. Marcy helped Grandma with the bookkeeping, and Bill helped Grandpa in the greenhouses and out in the fields. Before both Grandma and Grandpa passed, they had 13 grandchildren and 30 great-grandchildren. One of my greatest memories of Grandma and Grandpa, is how much they loved each other. Not to be weird, but he loved holding her hand and rubbing his hand through her hair. I wish my wife loved me as half as much. In this picture on the left, taken in 1940, Jeannie, Barb, and Marcy were tending to some bottle lamps while making the headlines growing up on the family farm. It was obvious that at a young age, Selden and Marilyn's children had some agriculture in their blood, and it was going to stay that way as they started getting married. Jeannie, my mom, married David Kyle, a sheep farmer. Barb, Nate's mom, married John Hatch, a sheep farmer. Marcy married Bill Abrams, a pig farmer. Bill married Kathy, a dairy farmer. And nevertheless, Cindy married Joe Martin, a funeral director. The bottom slide there is John Hatch and my dad, David Kyle. Nate's parents, Barb and John, met at the New York State Sheep and Wool Marketing Co-op. Barb was the secretary, and John was the president. Both grew up with sheep, and both were members of 4-H. They got married in 1976, and Barb moved to Bristol, below the ski mountains, to John's family farm. They had about 150 head of sheep at that point. Barb and John had 2 children, Rob and Nate, both active in 4-H in their early years. John unfortunately passed away in 1982, and Barb moved back to Rush. Barb remarried Lee Hetrick, and together they started B&L Excavation and Construction. Barb's son Rob currently works construction, running an underground drill. Nate is a partner in the sheep farm. Too fast, too slow? How are we doing?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm not doing very good, so. My parents, Jeannie and David, met at Cornell at a sheep conference tour. Sure is. Jeannie and David, my parents, met at Cornell University at a sheep conference tour. Both were fashionably late. Both grew up with sheep, and both were members of 4-H at a very young age. Jeannie and David got married in 1974, and David moved to Rush from Red Creek, leaving his family farm. During their time together, they had about 200 head of sheep at its peak, while Jeannie worked full-time at the greenhouses, and David full-time at the New York State Thruway Authority. Jeannie and David had 4 children: DJ, Carrie, myself, and my sister Kim. All Jeannie and David's children were members of 4-H. My brother DJ currently works at the Rush Highway Department, and in his spare time is very active in showing and judging sheep across the country with his family. My sister Carrie worked at the greenhouse for 25 years and now works at the town of Rush, and in her spare time helps DJ and I with different projects around the farm, including, which you'll never get fired from, feeding the sheep shearers 6 times a year. My younger sister Kim still works at the greenhouse in the floral shop, carrying on the family's long history. My dad passed away in 1998. Before he passed away, he was busy with many different titles. He was president of the West Central New York Wool Co-op, president of the New York State Sheep Improvement Association, vice president of Western New York Lamb Feeders, sheep superintendent at the Monroe County Fair, member of the Empire Sheep Producers, director of the New York Lamb Feeders Co-op. David and Jeannie received the New York Lamb Feeders and Sheep Producers Shepherd Family of the Year Award in 1995, and before he passed, he received Shepherd of the Year Award in 1998. In 2002, I filed my first DBA as a sole proprietor so I could work under contract. and to protect myself on the liability side while shearing sheep. In 2013, we formed Kyle Farms LLC. It was now official. DJ, Nate, and I were partners. In 2018, to make the banks happy, we traded the Cole family for the ground underneath the barns for membership in our LLC. In 2021, my brother decided to take the highway superintendent position at the town of Rush. So this leaves Nate and I as on-farm active members, and the Cole family as off-farm active members of the business today. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Somebody's got to help me with that. Nate and Kelly and their family. Nate graduated from Avon and went to Alfred State for welding. In his early years consisted of working at the greenhouse and at Chase Farms, making hay and straw throughout the summer. He did a summer internship at Stone Construction, welding and fabricating. You gotta tell me when you can't hear me. In between work, after college, he went back to the greenhouses full-time, and in 2007 joined the sheep farm. In between work, Nate spent most of his time at the sheep shows and sales across the country with us. Weirdly enough, Nate has always had a passion for trucking animals. To this day, Nate is in charge of trucking all our home-raised lambs, and there's nothing more comforting than knowing when those animals leave here, they are in good hands. In 2008, Nate married Kelly, or maybe Kelly married Nate, I'm still not sure. They now have 4 children, Jameson, Delaney, Finley, and McGuire, that all attend Avon Central. Myself, graduated from Avon in 2000, went to Cobleskill for ag business, then to Cornell for animal science in 2006. Like Nate, my early years were spent at the greenhouses helping around the family sheep farm. Because of my brother, I also had the opportunity to milk cows and to go to the shows with the Coyne family, which are here tonight. And we really appreciate all the support you've given us over the years, Jerry, Carol, and Jean. Really appreciate it. Malachi, Sean, thank you for everything you did for us. For myself, picking me up during the night to milk your cows when my dad was passing away. Kind of looking back, you probably should have just milked them yourself, but we do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Once strong enough to hold a sheep in a handpiece, I began my shearing career. Not only shearing local, but I also got to travel up and down the East Coast. Shearing was truly an experience that I'll never forget. And I credit a lot of our sheep handling skills to seeing all the different farms. After graduating from Cobleskill, I managed a 1,000 ewe flock in Attica, New York, and soon realized that if I was going to take care of sheep, they needed to be mine. After leaving there, I worked construction and saved enough money to go to New Zealand to shear. This is kind of a funny story. It's pretty humiliating, but I'll tell you anyways. When I got to New Zealand, my first week, I sheared 148 sheep in one day, and I was the slowest one. On my last week there, we were shearing a really nice flock, and I sheared 322 in one day, and I was still the slowest one. So after returning from New Zealand, I went to Cornell searching for a path, since I wasn't going to be a sheep shearer. After graduating, I worked for Ag Development Services, where we built business plans and did financial projections for special projects. In 2009, I came back to the farm full-time and married my wife Shannon, and we now have 2 kids, Selvin and Ruby. As you can see from the slide, the kids are highly encouraged to be at the farm. And we try to take advantage of their school breaks when we're shearing. Yes, we want the kids to be involved in sports and school activities, but the values a farm can teach a kid is priceless. It's no different than having great parents. You need to get out of bed in the morning, whether it's for school or to take care of the newborn lambs that were born during the night. We and the kids, these kids are our future. We want them to learn and understand work ethic, responsibility, and respect. As a family, we had to figure out how to make it work. First, we are fortunate that we're located in a strong agriculture community, and also that there were people in this community that supported agriculture and wanted us to make it work. We only exist because members of this community believed in us and helped us pave the way. With the support of a few, we were able to put the pieces together. And with the support of many, we were able to progress and grow. As you can see from the timeline of growth, we're very aggressive trying to grow. Prior to 2005, we only had about 20 to 50 sheep as our 4-H projects. So as you can see there, a lot of the expansions are based on when we built the barns, and I'll be going through that. So yeah, I'll explain everything here in the next couple slides. The Avon beginnings. 2006, Nations Road. While building a corral for Mulligan Farms down Nations Farm Lane, it was obvious that I was in sheep heaven, surrounded by over 1,000 acres of pasture. It was like being back in New Zealand. With some time and communication, Billy Lloyd and the Wadsworth family allowed us the opportunity to rent 85 acres the first year, and as time went on, the dairy farmers started leaving, and we now currently rent over 1,000 acres. 2007, the coal farm. The one day, driving down Route 39, heading towards Avon from Geneseo with my father-in-law, he asked if I wanted to go down that long driveway and see some old barns, and without hesitation, I said yes. Needless to say, we had sheep in those barns just as quick as we could get the freestalls taken out and converted. This farm was previously owned by James J. Wadsworth and then Tucciarello, and was farmed by the Kine family, the Cole family, and the Webb families before the Cole family purchased it in 1992. Everybody knows what the farm is? Yep. 2008 to 2010. I like to call these years the defeats. We're getting too big, too fast. And we're outgrowing, we're getting too big, too fast. And we were at the breaking point. We had outgrown our current old lambing barns that were scattered across both Monroe and Livingston County. Without enough barn space, we were having to land use out on pasture, and unfortunately, Mother Nature and wildlife would get the best of us. At this point, the banks didn't want to give us any more operating money, so we had to borrow money from others that were willing to take the risk. Thank you, Uncle Lee. Barn 1, 2010. With the financial help of the Cole family, we started building the new lambing barn that allowed us to lamb all our ewes out, and then, once old enough, we would send them back out to grass, so the older lambs could handle the weather. 2011. This is a long one, just to warn you. 2011, Barn 2. We couldn't catch a break. The coyotes knew exactly where we were at all times. Even though we had guard animals, the predation was too much. I remember to this day, out at the Culvert farm, behind Billy and Meg's house, we had the Michigan sheep producers out for a farm tour, and opening the gate after the long walk on the railroad bed to find a bunch of dead and half-eaten lambs the coyotes had got from the night before. It was that afternoon that I called Pete Cole and said we need to build another barn to keep these lambs in until weaning. Unfortunately, Pete was headed to Europe that next day, and unfortunately, he sent his dad down the next day. Dick Cole. I had heard stories of this guy. He shook your hand. He shook your hand, and you knew he meant business. The day he showed up, we were pulling out of the farm driveway. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "To the pastures." He said, "It takes 4 of you?" I don't know what to say at this point. He said, "Matt, you're going with me." He asked me to show him around. So I took him to all 5 locations, and he asked question after question after question. I knew at this point there was no way he was going to allow us to build Barn 2. I told him that if we failed, we would come work for him and pay him back as much as we could. He then at that point asked to see a 5-year business plan. Needless to say, we weren't making any money, struggling, so how do you do a business plan? Anyways, I did it, and within 4 weeks of that visit, we're building Barn 2. I honestly believe to this day he never even looked at that business plan, but just wanted to see if I would do it. 2016, Barn 3. Are you guys bored yet, or is everything's going good? 2016, at this point, things were going good. Much better. And we knew that to remain competitive, we had to figure out a way to have lambs available year-round. So by building Barn 3, we added 3 more lambing groups to our lambing schedule, which then allowed us to lamb in January, March, May, July, September, and November. By doing this, it allowed us to lamb and lactate all our ewes inside, and also allowed us to keep all the lambs inside until they are adults. 2017, Barn 4, fighting the mud and winter weather. While all the young animals were inside, we still had our mature ewes outside year-round in between lambings. It was a constant battle, fighting the weather, moving sheep from pasture to pasture, and trying to find the dry place to feed them, and always watching the weather, waiting for that nasty winter storm to come that would push the sheep for miles. Although we seemed to figure out ways to make it work, we still had to fight the predators. At this point, We had tried llamas, donkeys, dogs, and hunters. No matter what we did, there were too many. And they would always continue to outsmart us. By building Barn 4, it allowed us to bring all the animals in during the winter. Yes, it was a greater cost, but it was well worth the satisfaction of knowing the sheep were safe with a dry bed, clean water, mineral, and fresh feed delivered to them daily. 2020, the last year of summer grazing. This was a difficult decision. Our hearts told us we needed to be out there grazing. Our brains were telling us something totally different. I was nervous about telling the landlords that the sheep won't be grazing and potentially losing that ground. We still needed that ground to feed our sheep. But after sitting down and talking and going through the numbers, it was time. It was difficult, but yet very comforting, knowing that the animals weren't going to be chased by coyotes all night. In 2020, Barn 5, the lambing barn. This is the barn that we dreamed of building, and probably the barn we should have built first. This barn is truly a lambing barn, built wider with walkways around the outside so we could keep an eye on the ewes throughout the day and night. It had an updated watering system and easy access lambing pens to allow us to help the babies when needed. With the completion of Barn 5, our goal was fulfilled. We had 5,000 ewes that were going to be well taken care of. In 2017, we received the Next Generation Farm Award from the New York Agricultural Society. In 2024, the American Sheep Industry Innovation Award. Again in 2024, Livingston County Farm of the Year Award. This recognition means so much to me and our team, as it validates the hard work, the dedication, and the passion we put into our everyday work. Okay, we're ready to take a little break here with some videos, and we have two videos here. The first video was taken in 2016 for a wool marketing advertisement, and the second video will give you an idea of the dream has come true with 5 barns that are working very successfully at this point, and we're very pleased the way the business is going, so we'll have a look at these videos. There's supposed to be sound, it'll come.
Bear with us for a minute.
Anybody have any questions while they're figuring this out?
Why sheep?
Honestly, I would just probably tell you it's a 4-H project gone really bad. It's just something we've always been familiar with and developed some markets over the years, and I don't know, there's just a passion that I guess has gotten out of control. So. Yep.
What breed of sheep and why that particular breed?
Yeah, good question. So we run a Dorset Polypay type ewe. Originally we were Dorset Fin Ile-de-France. Because of the genetic availability, we went to the Dorset Polypay, and most recently here in the last couple of years, now we're running a straight Polypay, which is a crossbred ewe. The sheep industry is way, way behind from any of the swine, the dairy, but there's what they call the NSIP, the National Sheep Improvement Project, where these rams, the rams do have numbers that we're buying them with EBVs, estimated breeding values. So at this point, we run all Polypay rams.
And
the reason, sorry, what?
Go ahead, you were going to.
Yeah, so the reason for that, growing up, the Dorsets are great mothers. The Fin sheep had a large litter size, and the Ile-de-France brought the carcass characteristics. So what we're trying to do with the Polypay is trying to put that all into one package so we don't have to keep crossbreeding to get that maternal animal that we're looking for. My name's Matt Kyle Farms, Avon, New York. We're a 3rd generation sheep farm. We run 5,000 ewes here. So what makes our... Do you have a question?
Where does the meat go and where does the wool go?
So the wool has gone multiple places throughout our career here. Currently it's going to... Sheep Operation Unique is we're lambing on an accelerated lambing system. We run 4 different... sets of ewes, and we lamb 6 times a year. So each set of ewes will lamb every 8 months. So it all starts in the lambing barn. That's where 95% of the work is. And then once they lamb, they go into what we call mixing pens. They spend 24 hours in their lambing pen there, and then from there they're moved over to the lactation barn. In the lactation barn, they're going to stay roughly 60 to 70 days prior to weaning. Once the lamb is weaned, the lamb is run through a scale, and the lambs are penned in 10-pound increments so we know what we have to sell. So what makes our farm unique is we have lambs available all year round. As a farmer, we're livestock farmers, so we're caretakers of our animals. So our success is waking up every morning, knowing what we have to do. We have multiple jobs throughout the day, and at the end of the day, it's taking care of our sheep. The reason nutrition is important here on Kyle Farms is for many reasons. Having a very strong nutrition program in place allows us, with very high conception rates, it keeps the sheep very healthy, and it allows us not to have to give any antibiotics. Our success has been a lot of things, and it starts with management, nutrition, genetics. And being able to put all those into play has really brought us to a different level. Being able to get high conception rates, high lambing rates, low death loss has been huge in this operation. The future of Kyle Farms, I think it's going to be a lot of focus on genetics. We got to look at the efficiencies within our business to know and understand where we are today and where we're going. If we can grow within our business and continue to see the same performance that we're seeing now, then we can take this to the next level very easily. not sure if the next video is going to play, but I'll answer some questions in the meantime. So our wool is currently going to, I got just a local guy in Pennsylvania that's storing the wool, waiting for a pellet mill to come online, where they're going to turn the wool into pellets and use it as fertilizer and as weed prevention in vineyards. So fingers crossed there. The wool, because we lamb every 8 months, our wool is shorter than what it typically would be if we sheared at 12 months. So we're running right around like a 2-inch staple where normally it'd be a 3-inch. And our wool is a coarse wool and not a fine wool like some of your western breeds, your Rambouillets, your Merinos out in the west. So your next question was, where do we go with the lambs? We have a contract in New York City, Brooklyn, Manhattan. A lot of our lambs go to Tashkent Supermarket, and prior to that, I don't know how deep you want me to get into this, but we used to deal with Whole Foods, and I think I can honestly sit here and tell you, after explaining what the weather and the predators have done, we feel that we are much better farmers, giving our animals a place where they can have a roof over their head and keep them away from the elements. You know, if you go out there today on a 50-degree sunny day.
My dad, when he was growing up, it was this lady that I used to shear for when I was younger. She gave him his first lamb. He always wanted sheep. It just kind of evolved from there. I guess how this has evolved is basically just, you know, family working together.
So I've explained to you why we have our sheep inside. It was not an easy decision. And when we were dealing with Whole Foods, they came, you know, we were shipping on land, I think, for 4 or 5 years. And then they came up with their new GAP program, which is a global animal partnership. And part of those new standards, I will get
my dad, when he was growing up, it was this lady that I used to shear for when I was younger. She gave him his first lamb. He always wanted sheep. It just kind of evolved from there. I guess how this has evolved is basically just, you know, family working together is pretty much what it is. You know, graduating from Cornell, it was kind of like, all right, what are you gonna do with your life? You know, you gotta try to find each little niche in different parts of the business to be successful. We're a family farm that we've built USDA inspected facilities. So comparing us, you know, the family farm aspect to a commercial, we're still a family farm. It's me, my brother, and my cousin, and you know, the kids come down on weekends. My son likes to help out every chance he can get. At the end of the day, it does have to make money because you gotta pay your mortgage and taxes and whatnot. Every little niche in the business, including the wool, is great for our business because we're able to move that product. And then one day, here comes a phone number across the phone, and it's Steve Hoyt. He wanted our wool. It's kind of the first time in a long time somebody's really wanted our wool. So we shear the sheep here and call Mid-States, let them know we got it. They bring it back to their warehouse, sort it for green fleece fiber there, and they take what they want, what they can utilize, and it's really create kind of a nice little partnership between the three of us. We have to shear the sheep. It's so important to keep them clean and dry, and Steve Hoyt has now taken it to a different level, which has helped us because any little niche market there sure helps. The majority of all this land is in the Genesee Valley Land Conservancy, where they ended up selling with development rights. We hope to see sheep out here for another 100 years. It would be great. The agreement we have just be respectful. I think moving forward, family farms are going to be extremely important from the aspect that not only that we're producing food, but genetically we're producing, a lot of good, hardworking individuals. It's more of planting that seed in them to become good people, that take pride in what they do. So I think the values in family farms is going to get even stronger.
The second video we were hoping you'd see first to kind of show where we were. And the first video you saw we were hoping was going to be last, showing you where we are today. But to finish your question, so Whole Foods, and this kind of hit a nerve a little bit for me on this, because it's really unfortunate that they put these programs in place, and we've invited them out to see our facility, to show them the numbers that we feel that we are doing a better job in those barns, and that's why we built them. Trust me, those barns cost a lot of money every month, and it would have been pretty easy just to leave the sheep down there on pasture in their natural setting. But in the long run, the predation, the foot problems, the parasites, it just became too much. And like I said in this speech, your hearts told you your sheep, we wanted to be out there grazing. But it just wasn't working. And trying to explain that to the higher ups at Whole Foods, they weren't having it. And I guess come to find out, the board that we're putting this program together, they're all from New Zealand. So they're just importing lamb into Whole Foods from New Zealand. So we had no way to compete with them because the volume and consistency that they can put in there. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. I think that, you have situations that you have in Whole Foods and you've got organizations that are working with partial information and not the whole story.
Yeah, we've tried to get in the way.
Could you please repeat that?
I just said, this is a situation where, with a corporation like Whole Foods, that they're dealing with partial information, right? They don't have the whole story. And so sometimes you develop, and I've seen this in other industry, they develop a mythology around, they get behind a notion that doesn't have a complete information. That's all.
They're trying to sell it to the consumer, which I understand, because I guarantee you, I could sell the picture of Nations Road with a bunch of sheep. But I can show you 10 pictures of why it doesn't work. And for us as farmers, we're, like I said in the video, we're caretakers of our animals. We want our animals to be happy, we want them to be healthy, and it's worked for us, to be honest with you. Any more questions? Yep.
Where are your biggest markets for the wool?
For the wool? Yeah, so we ship our wool currently into Pennsylvania right now. There's an individual that's storing it, waiting for this pellet project to come on. But prior to that, we used to ship it to Mid-States. It was a wool cooperative, and they would take the wool there and grade it and then sell it. A lot of it was exported across the different countries, and there's just not a real strong, unless you have a wool breed with spinners, and there's not a huge market for volume of wool around here.
Matt, what is your goal going forward?
So thanks for asking that, because honestly today I don't know. Some people will say you're never going to stop growing, but if you look at that timeline and look at the way the barns were built, and not having money at one point in your life while struggling, trying to make ends meet, the focus today is to try to get some debt paid down, which I'm not going to lie, it's going very well at this point. The goals moving forward, we want to continue to do a better job with our sheep. And Obviously, we want to grow our families here, teaching the kids. But at the end of the day, you wake up every morning wanting to do a better job with your animals. So that's my goal right now. I don't know where it's going to take us. You know, could we do it again? Another 5,000 ewes? Sure, but it's not a goal at this time.
What kind of grasses are you growing from when they're outside?
So we used to grow a lot of orchard grass back in the day, but when we were grazing, we started planting fescue, and that was all kind of, I wouldn't say planned, but we started growing fescue because we were also harvesting that grass. Because the sheep, during the spring growth, you know, you could put 1,000 to 1,500 ewes on 100 acres, and it was going to take you 4 to 6 weeks to graze that off. So you had to do something with the other 700 acres. So because of the high traffic with harvesting and grazing, we went to endophyte-free tall fescue.
Well, what is your market, where is your market mostly for the meat? Is it in the United States or?
Yeah. Most of the lamb ends up in New York City and Brooklyn and Manhattan. Most of it goes to Tashkent supermarket. Yep. Any other questions?
So, how many employees do you have?
So currently it's Nate and I, and we have 3 employees. So, you know, going back to that time growth, you could sit there and say the years 2008 to 2010, when I called it the defeats, but those were the years in school they teach you need productive, reproductive assets to cash flow. So that was the goal in 2008 to 2010, to try to have enough animals so when you did build the barn, you could cash flow it. Yeah. At the end of the day, our goal is to take care of our animals and do the best job we can. And yeah, did I answer?
What is the lifespan of a ewe on your farm?
You know, the average lifespan we hope is going to be 5 to 7 years.
Hey,
Yep.
you always talk about 5,000 ewes, but that only tells part of the story. Can you tell us how many heartbeats are on the farm today?
I was hoping you were going to stay in that corner. So, with the 5,000 ewes, we have replacements behind those ewes, and then we have baby lambs being born every other month, and then we also have finishing lambs. Typically, right now, we're running 10 to 11,000.
Where does that stand in the pecking order for the country and size?
It's not about the size to me, but some of the stories that I've heard, you know, we're definitely biggest east of the Mississippi, and some people say we might even be the biggest in the world when you look at the number of ewes lambing in an accelerated lambing. There's guys out west that are going to have more ewes than us, but not accelerating. So we might have 5,000 ewes, but we're actually having 8,000 lambings a year. So, it's decent size, but again, it's not the goal. The goal is to take really good care of our livestock. And it comes down to the fundamentals of, you know, kind of going back to what you said. It's the volume and scale, right? How do you tell yourself you're doing well? You wake up, you're happy, you're healthy. You're probably going to look at your bank account to know if you can pay your bills, right? And it's the same thing with the farm. We needed these reproductive assets to bring in cash to be able to put on each barn.
Are you ever going to have
I think I'm probably going to contact Mr. Kevin Keenan to do a virtual open house. For biosecurity reasons, and you know, the sheep are so used to the 5 of us and some of the kids, we just got to be careful bringing different people in, biosecurity, and then large groups of people, because it's not that the sheep are scared, the sheep get excited, and they just start running and can do stupid things.
Where does the lamb exhaust go?
What's that?
Where does the sheep exhaust go?
What do you mean, the sheep exhaust? The manure? That was the last question I wanted to answer. You can ask any family member in this room. That is one thing that I hate about our business. So the problem is, we're pretty close to the village, right? So we're always watching the weather when we're getting ready to spread, waiting for that east-north wind so we can blow it back towards York. Give them a taste of what they give to us all the time. The manure goes right there locally. We have started working with some other farms on exporting it. We have plenty of ground where we are to handle the manure. We are a CAFO farm, which is a confined animal feeding operation, which we are monitored by DEC. So we have to keep track of wastewater, manure imports, exports. So we're highly regulated, and you know, the goal is to continue to do a good job with that and wait for those right winds to spread it. And yeah, the thing is, people aren't used to sheep manure, and it has a different smell to it, and it's just it gives me high blood pressure. So thanks. Water supply? So we were pulling out of the Canisius Creek for a long time, and probably shouldn't say this, but the E. coli number was too numerous to count after finding out the Lakeville waste treatment plant discharges into it. So we're now hooked up to town water. Well, thank you to all our families, our friends, and to the Avon community. I would never in a million years expected this many people to be here to come watch a sheep presentation, but thank you. We really appreciate it, and you know, as we continue to moving forward, we want to give back to the community, and yeah, thank you.